My mother was truly a stage mother, a mean one.
They smiled for the cameras because they weren't allowed to cry behind the curtain. Fame made them stars, but behind every glittering child stood a mother who wanted it even more.
If I didn't feel good, if I was sick to my tummy, she'd say, "You get out and sing, or I'll wrap you around the bedpost and break you off short." So I'd go out and sing.
1. Maria Gordin. Maria Gordin, born Maria Zakharenko in Russia, dreamed of being an actress long before her daughter was born. When Hollywood never opened its doors for her, she decided her little girl would walk through them instead. From Natalie's very first appearance on film at age 5, Maria guided every step, the roles, the agents, even the interviews. Behind Natalie's angelic image was a mother who ruled through pressure and guilt. Maria demanded obedience, often reminding her daughter that the family's future depended entirely on her success. During auditions and filming, she was known to plead, push, and sometimes intimidate directors to secure the opportunities she wanted for Natalie. Natalie's childhood soon became a full-time career. There are long-circulated stories that during the making of The Green Promise, 1949, Natalie was frightened by a dangerous stunt involving a collapsing bridge, and that the incident may have contributed to her later fear of deep water. Whether that connection is literal or symbolic, it captured what her early life had become, a series of roles she was never allowed to refuse. Natalie loved her mother, but she never escaped her influence. Even as an adult, Maria continued to shape her public image and interfere in her personal life. And though the world remembers Natalie Wood for her grace and talent, few realized how much of her life had been directed, not by Hollywood, but by the woman standing just off camera. 2. Rose Hovick. She called herself Mother Rose, but there was nothing soft about her. Rose Hovick raised her daughters, Gypsy Rose Lee and June Havoc, not out of love, but out of ambition. She wanted fame, and she was determined to get it, even if she had to climb there on her children's backs. Rose was the driving force behind one of the most infamous stage acts in vaudeville history. She pushed her girls into constant rehearsals, humiliating auditions, and endless tours. When June, the younger one, finally ran away to escape her mother's grip, Rose turned her attention fully to Gypsy, reinventing her as a burlesque star. Rose's obsession became legend. Her controlling, manipulative nature inspired the famous musical Gypsy and helped shape the character of Mama Rose, the ultimate stage mother. Behind closed doors, there were reports of violence, jealousy, and emotional cruelty. Gypsy later said that her mother once shot at a man she suspected of harming her daughter, proof that Rose's love was as dangerous as her rage. In the end, both daughters escaped her, but never untouched. Mother Rose lived her life through their fame and died surrounded not by applause, but by silence. And yet her shadow still lingers over Hollywood, a reminder of how easily love can turn into obsession. 3. John Bellow. Jean Harlow was Hollywood's original blonde bombshell, but behind her, glamour stood a mother who wanted to be her. Jean Bellow, known as Mother Jean, had once dreamed of stardom herself. When those dreams faded, she poured every ounce of ambition into her daughter instead. From the start, Mother Jean managed everything: the contracts, the image, even the men in her daughter's life. She encouraged the platinum hair, the sensuality, the endless publicity that made Jean Harlow the icon of the 1930s. But with each success, the pressure grew heavier. Harlow, still in her 20s, was treated more as the embodiment of her mother's ambitions than as a young woman finding her own way. When Jean's health began to fail in 1937, her mother's control didn't waver. Some accounts suggest she delayed seeking medical treatment, placing her faith in alternative healing and prayer before doctors were finally called. By the time professional help arrived, Harlow was in kidney failure. She died at just 26, one of Hollywood's brightest lights gone far too soon, and in that tragedy, Mother Jean was left with the fame she had always chased, but none of the joy. Her daughter's immortality became her own bitter legacy, a reminder of dreams lived through someone else's life. 4. Mildred Turner. Before the cameras found Lana Turner, her mother, Mildred, was already searching for fame. After her husband's death, Mildred became determined to turn her daughter's beauty into opportunity, a way out of poverty and a ticket into the glittering world of Hollywood. She moved Lana to Los Angeles when the girl was still in her teens, carefully grooming her to be discovered. And when it happened, when Lana was spotted at a malt shop and cast into stardom, it wasn't an accident. It was Mildred's plan all along. She managed every step of her daughter's career, from studio negotiations to wardrobe choices. But the price of ambition was steep. Lana was thrust into adult roles before she'd even finished being a child, becoming a sex symbol when she was still learning who she was. Mildred's guidance opened every door, but also stripped away innocence. Lana loved her mother, but she could never quite separate her own identity from the one Mildred had built for her. And though success came in abundance, peace never did. Mildred Turner proved that in old Hollywood, some dreams came true only when someone else paid for them. 5. Ethel Ross. Before she was an Oscar-winning actress, Patty Duke was a little girl living under someone else's name, a name invented by her manager, Ethel Ross. Ross wasn't just her guardian, she was her master. Along with her husband, she took complete control of Patty's career, her money, her schedule, even her identity. They told her what to eat, when to sleep, what to say. They created Patty Duke, the perfect child star, and erased Anna, the real girl underneath. Behind the cameras, the control was suffocating. Ethel and her husband ruled through fear, isolating her, shouting, sometimes locking her away to teach discipline. They spent the money she earned, while she was left with nothing but exhaustion and anxiety. Patty later revealed that she was never allowed to trust anyone, that her life was a performance even when the cameras weren't rolling. When she finally broke free in her late teens, she had to rebuild not just her career, but her sense of self. Winning an Oscar for The Miracle Worker was a triumph, but also a reminder of everything she'd survived to get there. Years later, she said quietly, "Everything I had me." And in that single line, Patty Duke spoke for every child star who ever paid for someone else's dream. 6. Marian Eaton Montgomery. Before Shirley Temple or Jackie Coogan, there was Baby Peggy, one of the first true child superstars of Hollywood's silent era. By the age of 8, she had appeared in more than 150 films and earned millions, becoming the face of innocence and laughter for an entire generation. Behind that success stood her mother, Marian Eaton Montgomery, who, together with baby Peggy's father, controlled every part of her life: the studios, the contracts, the endless filming schedule. There were no breaks, no school, no play, only lights, cameras, and exhaustion. The little girl who made millions laugh barely had time to be a child. When the studios moved on to the next sensation, the money was gone, spent by her parents. Her career collapsed overnight, and the family lost everything. Years later, she spoke of those days not with anger, but with clarity. "They thought they owned my childhood, but it was never for sale." Baby Peggy's story helped spark early discussions about protecting young performers, paving the way for reforms like the Coogan Law. But for her, the applause had come too soon and lasted far too long. 7. Gertrude Temple. If Hollywood ever had a perfect child, it was Shirley Temple. All dimples, curls, and rehearsed charm. Behind that flawless image stood her mother, Gertrude, the quiet force who built her daughter's empire smile by smile. She wasn't cruel, but she was absolute, managing every detail, from Shirley's ringlets to her on-camera reactions. Gertrude famously sat just off set, signaling how her daughter should move or emote. Acting for Shirley wasn't play, it was precision. Under her mother's command, she became the world's most famous child star, a symbol of hope in the Great Depression, but at the cost of her own childhood. Even after the lights dimmed, Gertrude never let go. She guided Shirley's adult career, her interviews, even her image as a wife and diplomat. It wasn't abuse, but it was possession. A lifetime of direction from the woman who made her a legend. Shirley Temple once said she never realized she was a child until she stopped being one, and her mother made sure of that. 8. Leila Rogers. Leila Rogers wasn't just Ginger Rogers' mother. She was her manager, her publicist, her fiercest defender. A journalist and stage director herself, Leila was sharp, commanding, and utterly unafraid of confrontation. She coached Ginger in dance, helped her navigate studios, and challenged anyone who dared to cross her daughter. But Leila's protection often came with a price. She clashed with directors, studio heads, even fellow actors, convinced that only she knew what was best for Ginger. Her involvement was so constant that Hollywood began to see them as a single entity, the star and the mother who made her. Ginger adored her, but also struggled to find her own identity. Even as an Oscar-winning actress, she remained partly in her mother's shadow, the daughter of the woman who'd willed her into greatness. 9. Virginia Funichello. To the public, Annette Funichello was Disney's golden girl, pure, sweet, untouchable. Behind her, Virginia Funichello made sure it stayed that way. She handled every contract, every appearance, every public word her daughter spoke. Virginia's control came from fear. Fear that fame would destroy her daughter. Fear that one wrong move would end everything. So she built walls around Annette, walls of love, but also of control. Even as Annette grew up and tried to live a normal life, her mother guarded her image like a fortress. When Annette later battled multiple sclerosis, Virginia stayed by her side until the end. Her love was genuine, but it had always been possessive. For Annette, freedom was something she never fully knew. 10. Mary Robinson McConnell. Before Hollywood even had sound, Lillian Gish was already its silent queen. But long before fame, she was a child on stage because her mother said so. Mary Robinson McConnell was a single mother trying to survive after being abandoned by her husband. To keep food on the table, she pushed Lillian and her younger sister Dorothy into acting, turning their innocence into the family's livelihood. The girls performed in traveling theater troupes, often living in cheap hotels, performing in harsh conditions. There was no childhood, no safety, just the endless grind of rehearsals and performances. Mary loved her daughters, but she also relied on them, and that meant their freedom was never their own. Lillian would later say her mother was both my savior and my keeper. Without her, she might never have become a legend. But because of her, she never had the chance to simply be a girl. 11. Eileen Burce. Jane Powell was born to sing, and her mother, Eileen Burce, was determined the world would hear her. From childhood, Eileen enforced discipline like a drill sergeant. Vocal lessons, dance classes, public appearances, every smile, every word, every note had to be flawless. Eileen wasn't cruel, but she was relentless. She believed that talent meant duty, and duty meant no mistakes. Jane's golden voice made her an MGM star, yet off-screen, she often admitted she never knew where her own will ended and her mother's began. Behind the charm of 7 Brides for 7 Brothers was a woman still trying to please the mother who'd shaped every step of her life. Perfection made Jane famous, but it also made her lonely. 12. Maybel Reed. Martha Ray's mother, Maybel Reed, didn't ask if her daughter wanted to perform. She simply put her on stage. At 3 years old, Martha was already part of a vaudeville act, singing and dancing beside her mother in smoky theaters. The applause became her lullaby, the road her only home. Maybel treated show business as survival. She wasn't malicious, just hardened by the grind of early 20th century entertainment. But she raised Martha more like a co-worker than a child. The little girl who grew up making people laugh carried that need her whole life. To perform, to please, to never rest. Martha loved her mother deeply, but never quite forgave her for turning joy into obligation. 13. Blanche Oelrichs. Being born a Barrymore meant being born into legend. For Diana Barrymore, daughter of the great John Barrymore and writer-actress Blanche Oelrichs, known to the world as Michael Strange, it also meant being born into chaos. Her mother was brilliant, artistic, and ambitious, but also demanding and emotionally distant. From childhood, Diana lived under the weight of expectation. Blanche valued discipline, reputation, and artistic prestige above tenderness. She wanted her daughter to carry on the Barrymore name, not through rebellion or fame, but through control and perfection. When Diana struggled, her mother offered judgment instead of comfort. The young woman who longed for warmth found only the cold pressure of legacy. Her battles with addiction and despair became part of that same family story. Genius touched by tragedy. Later, Diana would say she was raised to perform, not to feel. Her mother gave her a famous name, but never the freedom to simply be Diana. 14. Ethel Gumm. Before there was Dorothy, there was Frances Gumm, a small-town girl with a thunderous voice, pushed onto the stage by her mother, Ethel. Ethel wasn't just ambitious, she was relentless. She wanted her daughter to succeed, no matter the cost. By the time Judy was 13, Ethel had her performing non-stop vaudeville, radio, studio auditions. When MGM finally signed her, it was Ethel's victory more than Judy's. But the dream turned toxic. Ethel reportedly supplied her teenage daughter with pep pills to stay awake for rehearsals and sleeping pills to calm down after long days. Judy wasn't allowed to rest or eat freely. Her weight was monitored, her schedule dictated, her life planned down to the minute. The more successful Judy became, the tighter her mother's grip grew. She controlled her contracts, her money, and even her brief moments of freedom. Later in life, Judy would describe Ethel as the real Wicked Witch of the West. When Judy died at 47, her mother was nowhere near her, but her shadow had followed her to the end. 15. Margaret Kelly. Strictly speaking, Margaret Kelly wasn't a stage mother in the Hollywood sense. She didn't manage contracts or chase movie deals, but she shaped Grace Kelly in another way through relentless discipline and impossible standards. A former athletic champion and physical education instructor, Margaret believed that character was built through control, not comfort. In the Kelly household, achievement wasn't encouraged, it was expected. Grace grew up competing with her brother and sisters, constantly reminded that she had to prove herself twice over because she was a girl. When Grace turned to acting, her mother was torn between pride and disapproval. She thought Hollywood was frivolous beneath the Kelly name. Yet, when Grace won her Oscar and later became Princess of Monaco, Margaret quietly claimed part of that victory. She never pushed her daughter onto a stage, but she built the steel that carried her there. And while the other mothers chased fame through their children, Margaret Kelly created something different: perfection at a price. They gave their daughters the spotlight and took the light out of their eyes. Thank you for watching. If you love old Hollywood stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.